today's video, I want to walk through exactly how to choose the right traffic channel for you. And please keep in mind, we're not just going to focus on paid traffic. I know I come from a Google Ads agency, so Google Ads, if you're good with the hammer, you think everything is a nail. So goes the saying. So Google Ads is definitely my hammer, but that doesn't mean that I don't believe in other traffic sources. I'm actually pretty solution agnostic, to be honest with you. Once we get into really helping clients scale. So I'm going to walk through some of the traffic acquisition strategies that we have. And would love to hear your thoughts as you follow along, drop them into the comments. So step number one to traffic has to do with knowing your avatar. Far too often, we as business owners, we jump right into advertising, which is a catastrophic error. Now, this is an academic exercise, and I would anticipate a really significant majority of people that are watching this video to try to fast forward through this, or maybe I've already lost you. I implore you to spend the time to walk through this exercise. I know it's annoying and it's routine, but one of the things that's really interesting is if you have, a business partner or somebody who's working in your sales and marketing department, or a handful of people, if you have them all walk through this exercise together, which should only take 20 minutes, you're going to find massive disparities in what you think your customer looks like and what they think their customer looks like, which I think hopefully stands as proof that this exercise is worth doing because it'll get everybody on the same page. So before you start with traffic, you have to become obsessed with your avatar. Russell Brunson, who's a world authority in the marketing space, he charges $100,000 for a day of his time. And he said in his book that if you pay him the $100,000 for his day and you haven't done this exercise, that's what y'all are doing that day. And he's going to charge you $100,000 and he's going to consider it worth it. The marketers that do the best are the ones that really know their avatar and become obsessed with who this person is. And keep in mind that an avatar is not a target demographic. The target demographic is like, attorneys in Texas or teachers between the ages of 30 and 50. An avatar it's a person that you can put a face on. As a matter of fact, once you have your avatars defined, one really good pro tip is to go online and find a picture of somebody that you think looks like your avatar. Print them out, put them up on your whiteboard. And now anytime you're writing anything, creating anything, shooting a video, have that person's face in your mind and realize that you're speaking to them. And it's going to change your tone, change your voice, change the way that you approach things, the words that you use, how you communicate, etc. So, and I'm not going to read through every single one of these questions, but you'll get a really solid sense as to what it is you're trying to do. You don't want to know them just on the surface level or just on a business level. You want to know them on a deep personal level. You'll see things. What are their dreams? What are they afraid of? What are their non-negotiables? These are mission, vision, values things. And if you're sitting there going, well, I'm B2B, that's not applicable. You're so full of it. You don't even realize. There's no such thing as B2B or B2C in the realm of marketing. It's all human to human. And I stole that clearly from Digital Marketer, who I'm a big fan of. But there's truth there. On the end of every buying decision is a person, and that person is human so far. That will change someday, sadly, which is terrifying for all of us. But right now, you need to know how to communicate to that human. So get to know your avatar. I'll give you one really specific example. This comes from my agency. We had a campaign, we still have it, but we were going aggressively after naturopathic physicians. We had a Google Ads campaign that worked really well for naturopaths. And we kind of cracked the code. And so for a while there, we were targeting naturopaths until we saturated that industry. And what we found, now realize here, the target demographic is naturopathic physicians. And you're done. You've just defined your target demographic. Congratulations. And you can glean some information from that. You can, figure out, where they went to school, geographically where they're positioned. There's some places that are a little bit more receptive to the naturopathic approach. So there's some good stuff you can get out of target demographic, but it doesn't give you the avatar. What we found is there were two really distinct avatars inside of the world that is naturopathic physicians. And we called one Dr. Mike and one Dr. Jenny. And what you'll see is just how different they are. Dr. Mike was generally male. He was over 50. He was married. He had adult children. And he hated technology. And he was crotchety. And he kind of didn't want to market even though he knew he needed to. But he also wasn't really in it for the long haul. He probably wanted to sell his practice or, bring in a junior partner so he could phase himself out. Possibly pass it down to a kid maybe who's filling his roles or coming into his footsteps, which happened very often. But Dr. Mike wasn't as engaged. He wanted the end result. He did not want to know at all how the sausage was made. He had no interest in communicating from a strategic perspective or a tactical perspective. He was just dollars and cents, bottom line. What am I going to get? Dr. Mike. Dr. Jenny, generally female, generally early 30s, single, no children. Now, where Dr. Mike was cash flush, he had the money to throw at things. Dr. Jenny was broke, and she had a bunch of student loans, and she probably took an SBA loan to start her practice. But she was engaged, and she got it, and she understood what we were doing, and she wanted to be involved, and she, was really tactical and, very hands-on. And you can see immediately how important it is to understand those two distinct avatars. You can't talk to Dr. Mike the way you talk to Dr. Jenny. You can't talk to Dr. Jenny the way you talk to Dr. Mike. You can't offer the same thing to either of them because Dr. Jenny can't afford it and Dr. Mike doesn't get it. So when you work to understand who your avatar is when it comes to our topic of today, which is choosing a traffic channel, it helps you know what channel you're going to use, and as important, how to utilize that channel, because you could be in the right place, but if you're saying the wrong thing, you're gonna fail miserably, and sometimes you don't even know you're saying the wrong thing. So when you're choosing a traffic channel, it's not just about finding out where your customers are hanging out. It's also about knowing what it is you need to say to those people in order to capture their attention or get them to convert or whatever the goal ends up being. So know your avatar. Spend time on this exercise. And if you don't do this step, just know that you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And by the way, I'm harping on this because I used to be that guy. I used to be like, oh no, I know who these are. I know the people. I'm not going to walk through those questions. That's stupid. That's academic. I'm not wasting my time. And I just wanted to start pressing buttons. And it's a flawed model. Spend the time, walk through, build your avatar. There's a ton of worksheets online and cool videos and people that help you do this, that do avatar identification stuff. So if you want to really invest in it, you can. You don't have to, though. I mean, just spend a half hour figuring out who these folks are and asking yourself some of those deeper questions, and you'll get a lot out of that. Moving on. Step number 2 is understanding your value. And again, this might feel a little ethereal and separated from the topic at hand, but it's not, because when you're choosing a traffic channel, you're looking at, in many cases, something that you're going to have to pay for, and in a lot of cases pay significantly for, and you have to understand what you're bringing to the table. Now, we get we get prospects all the time that are sort of Me Too products. My favorite thing to harp on are the drop shippers who are selling cell phone cases, because there's 1,000 of them every day, and they have no unique selling proposition. There's no real reason to work with them as opposed to somebody else. They're not even passionate about their product. They don't have any business buying traffic or earning traffic. There's no excuse for them to be in existence. They went to Udemy or YouTube. They took a couple courses on drop shipping, and now they're going to go sell cell phone cases or watches or whatever whatever the flavor of the month is. You have to understand what your value is and how to articulate that value. A couple quick quotes for you. This is possibly one of my favorite. Derek Sievers. Some say life is time. Life is all about time. The definition of life is the time between when you're born and when you die. So the literal meaning of life is time. So if life is time, the way you have a good life is to use time wisely. And I'm making a point here that's a larger point, and forgive me for getting just a little pseudo-intellectual on you. Time is the only thing that we have as people. And people spend their time, the majority of their time, 33% of their working day, earning money. So time is money. And here's a quote by Ben Franklin. Remember that time is money. He that can earn 10 shillings a day by his labor and goes abroad or sits idle one half of that day, though he spends but 6 pence during his diversion or idleness, it ought not to be reckoned the only expense. He hath really spent or thrown away 5 shillings besides. And I think that is a point worth meditating on. Life is the thing that we all value most. Life is time. Time is money. And if you compress that means that life equals money. And what that really means, and the point I'm trying to get across the most, is when you're asking somebody to give you their money. So you've got your widget or your sprocket or your service or your product that you're selling, and you're asking them for money in exchange for that. The game that we're playing here is we're asking them for a fractional piece of their life. And if you can view the transaction that way, you're going to be positioned to provide more value than you're giving. You're going to understand that if I'm asking for this fractional piece of your life, whatever it is, 0.0001% of your life, I need to make sure that the improvement to your life exceeds the amount that I'm asking for. If I don't do that, I shouldn't be in business. So if you can't provide somebody more value than the life you're asking for in exchange, then don't drive traffic, period. You don't understand your avatar well enough to care about them. I said this in my book. You can't market to people that you can't fall in love with. If you understand your avatar well enough, you should actually fall in love with these people. And if you love somebody, you're not going to give them, you're not going to want to participate in that trade. So life is time, time is money, life is money. And if you're asking somebody for money, then you're asking for a fractional piece of their life. And it's critically important that you understand that, and that now you position yourself to improve their life from this trade. And chances are you already do. If you're a successful business person, you already do. And that's another way, incidentally, for you to begin viewing what it is that you do in a grander scheme, in a grander light. What you're doing is important. You're improving people's lives. You might say, hey, like all I do is sell a more efficient water bottle. Well, that's a really big deal. If you look at, all the little micro adventures that we go on, and the Kaizen principle of 1% improvement every day, if you can improve somebody's life by 1%, and then you've got 99 other entrepreneurs who are all committed to doing that same thing, that's not 100% because they compound. So this is an important point for me, and hopefully I'm not belaboring it. But know what your value is. And then once you know what your value is, get good at articulating that value. Ryan Deiss, who's one of my mentors and I think one of the smartest marketers who's ever lived, this is a great quote from him. Great copy simply articulates the shift between the before stage and the after stage. And that's with their life. So you're not talking about whatever, granular myopic thing that your product may serve, whatever that happens to be. If you're selling shoes, you're not just talking about like, oh, the quality of the laces or the leather or the this or the that. You're talking about how you're going to influence and change their life. We're making it easier for you to hold your children, more time to spend, playing this game that you love. Like what impact are we having on their life? And remember, traffic is expensive. And if you can't do this, it's as detrimental as not knowing who your avatar is. So know your avatar, know your value. Step number 3, an offer can only be made when you have an avatar and a value proposition that match. So your offer equals avatar plus value. Going back to Ryan again, forgive me for just constantly evoking this poor guy. I know I'm a little fanboyish, but he's just wicked sharp. So Ryan says prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. That means you can't back into a traffic channel. Don't go advertise on Facebook because everybody tells you that Facebook ads are cheap or that it's easier because you know how to do it. You need to determine the traffic channel based off of who your avatar is and what your offer is, what the value is that you're bringing to the table. You might find an avatar that lives inside of an ecosystem that is perfectly accessible to you, but then find that your offer is probably not appropriate to that ecosystem. For instance, if you're a mortician and you find the AARP Facebook group, those are all the people you probably need to be getting in front of one day, but that might not be the most appropriate place for you to do it. So we want to find where things fit. So step number 1, go to where your avatar already is. Don't begin advertising inside of a traffic channel just because that channel's cheap or accessible to you. The very first thing you want to do, this is especially true if you don't have a proven model. If you're a startup, or if you're brand new, or if you've never advertised online, there are people that have already cultivated the list that you want. Our naturopath is a good example of that. There's magazines and online groups that I can just go to and pay for a dedicated email blast or for advertising on their website or, to do sponsored webinars or whatever. And now I get instantly in front of these naturopaths. And instead of working for, who knows how many months it would take to build that list organically, I get instant exposure and instant feedback. Now it's more expensive than I want it to be long-term, but that exposure and feedback is critically important for me to hone my offering so that when I do end up trying to cultivate that organically and, paying for traffic in other ways, I know I have a winning offer. So go to where your avatar is. I'm going to give you some examples. So we needed to target optometrists, and there's a magazine out there called Review of Optometry. It cost us $1,000 to send 42,000 emails. We had 6,500 opens, 224 clicks, 157 downloads. Our cost per lead was $6.36. That's a great CPL for me. If I know I can sell optometrists on our program, which is $1,000 a month, and I'm running 20% margin, so I make $200 a month, and I've got a phenomenal close ratio for anybody I get on the phone, and I have a $6.36 cost per lead, like, you can see how that it just is an absolute no-brainer. Now, the disadvantage we ran into with Review Optometry is at a certain point, you run out of optometrists because their list is only so big, and they're might not be doing the best job at growing it. Not to throw barbs at those folks that are very kind to us, but you can see how this put me instantly in front of optometrists at a CPL that was very friendly, and I got a ton of amazing feedback, including just the lack of engagement. These to me were not the numbers I was expecting, and the offer that we made was, I thought, so compelling. We gave away years worth of social media posts for free. And the way we did that, by the way, was pretty wicked ninja. We just wrote a social post for every Tuesday and Thursday for a year. So that's 100 posts, basically, which, took our content writer a couple of days because they were really good, really robust, and, image supplemented and those types of things. But we built it once, then we gave it away to optometrists. I assumed we would have a massive adoption. Turns out optometrists just weren't that interested in social media advertising, which was good for us to know. The few that were heavy engagers, but it wasn't as good an offer as I was expecting. And this allowed me to hone that offer before I went and started hemorrhaging money elsewhere. This is also a really friendly number. If you spent $1,000 on a paid traffic, you couldn't expect to begin to even qualify that ad campaign with that amount of money. In any channel, Facebook, Google, or otherwise. So go to where your customer is. Review Optometry, example number one. Here's another example of a failed campaign. We wanted to target masons, stonemasons. We had a really high-performing Google Ads campaign. We thought that we'd be able to replicate that success with other stonemasons. So we went to the MCAA, which is the World's Stonemason Association. We paid him $2,000 for membership, and then we paid him an additional amount of money. I forget what it was, but I think we were $5,000 in total. So $2,000 for the membership, $3,000 for the other marketing mechanisms, and we got 3 dedicated webinars, 3 dedicated email blasts, 12 months of directory placement, and we got nothing out of it. Nobody cared. And what we found was the stonemason that had hired us in the first place was, sort of a forward thinker for his industry. And him aside, most stonemasons are subcontractors to contractors that feed them all the work they need. And they just weren't that interested in marketing or growing. So this is a good example because I could have hemorrhaged years of my time trying to chase this, supposedly golden goose. And I was able to go straight to the source and find out right out of the gate for, what for us was a relatively small amount of money, given what some launches can cost. I figured out that, this avatar is just not interested. The American Chiropractic Association. So we've got a client, we went after integrated chiropractors, and we were able to make him $270,000 with $22,000 spent. And I've got a whole case study written up on this. We have the campaign live. We can show people. Amazing case study. Now, he's a rock star of a doctor, but, the expectation is so should all of our clients be. We sent an email blast out. They were $1,000 each. We sent 6 of them. They had a sizable list, 30,000. I think there was only 45,000 chiropractors in the United States, so we got in front of most of them. Don't quote me on that number. Solid open rate, solid click-through rate, solid lead count, $50 cost per lead, especially with an offer as compelling as this. That was a no-brainer for me. Remember, I'm a Google Ads guy. I'm a PPC guy telling you not to run PPC right out of the gate, especially if you're a startup. Not always. Sometimes if you don't have this opportunity available to you, then your only other option is to run PPC, at which point run Google Ads and run Google Ads first. You can go watch my bottom-up funnel video if you have any interest as to why we say Google first. Matt Hillis, who's my business partner now in another agency that we own. We own a membership community specifically for Montessori schools. And when I partnered with Matt, everybody knows Matt. Everybody likes Matt. Matt owns the 4 Montessori schools. He's the founder of MariaMontessori.com. He owns the Maria Montessori Facebook page with 800,000 followers. He was a member of MA, which is a Montessori organization. We were able to get in front of 25% basically of the schools in the world based solely on Matt's relationships. So if you have a thought leader or the critical hub in the hub and spoke situation, somebody that knows everybody that you want to send your message to, that's a really important partner to have. And Another example, Justin Colby. You might know Justin. He's famous in the real estate space. Really, really intelligent person. Has a podcast, has a bunch of coaching students. He's a real estate investor, strong strategic relationships. We had, for 7 years, we had the highest performing real estate investment campaign on the planet, and I can prove that with data. We sold that agency in June of 2019. It was my first successful exit as an entrepreneur. Before we sold it, we had a partnership agreement with Justin. 30% of our clients came through Justin. We were a 7-figure agency within the first year launching, which is a big deal for an agency. And 30% of our clients came through Justin. Now, Justin was paid handsomely for that, but so should he be, because real estate investors are hard to get in front of. And another really just honorable mention is a company called InvestorFuse. They're a real estate investment CRM, and we partner with them, and we got a lot of really good clients out of them too. So build those relationships and realize that traffic doesn't necessarily need to be bought and paid for. As a matter of fact, when you have organic traffic that's flowing to your site, it can equip Google from a machine learning perspective to identify the people that are actually quality and then go bring you more of those people. Medical device manufacturers, another really good example. Difficult industry to break into, tons of compliance issues. The FDA approval process, I think, is 2 years. They have a hard time with money. They're constantly going after VCs and trying to do capital raises. We were able to connect with, I can't use his name sadly, but we were able to connect with the world's foremost authority inside the medical device space. And the access that it provided us to some of these manufacturers. I'm personally invested in 2 medical device companies now, and a lot of that was, tangentially aligned with this engagement. So go to where your avatar is. Next, go to where your avatar could be. And this is a little, speculative, I understand, but it's necessary, especially if you burn a list, run out of list, or find out that the list that's available to you just isn't working. Here's a little grid that I have to offer you in the time and money space. And this relates to you. So this left column here is people that have a lot of time. And if you've got tons of time on your hands, then these are marketing channels that are probably worth your examination. This top row is for people that have tons of money. So if you got lots of money, then here's people that, here's marketing channels that are worth your time and examination. Bottom row is you don't have money. The second column is you don't have time. So this is for all of those businesses out there that have lots of time and lots of money, which I realize are probably very few and far between. If you have time and no money, these are the channels to pursue. If you don't have time but you have money, here are the traffic channels for you. And if you don't have time and you don't have money, don't fool yourself. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I'd like to be honest for a minute. All those, you see Facebook campaigns like this sometime, like, $1 a day Facebook campaign, my secret to how I made 7 figures in 48 hours or whatever. BS. I just, I know that some people really have cracked that code. Some people have gotten lucky, but for the most part, if that were possible, why would they be selling you the education? Why wouldn't they just be replicating that business over and over and over again? Unless the business is just selling you the education. You need to invest time or money or both. If you don't have either of those things, then you're not going to be able to run traffic. I don't care what Tim Ferriss says. Let's go over some of these in greater detail. If you have time and you have money, thought leadership is the best place to be. So speaking engagements, YouTube channels, positioning yourself, be the Gary Vee in your industry. And that's a great place to be if you can pull it off, if you can make it happen. Search engine optimization. Don't listen to anybody that tells you they can get you on the top half of the first page within 90 days. That's the standard SEO narrative. It's a lie. If it's a high commercial intent key phrase, if it's a high value key phrase, if it's one that actually has any amount of competition around, it's going to take 6, 9, 12, or 18 months at a minimum. And we rank for best Google Ads agency. I think that took me 4 years. To do. So realize that SEO takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. It's not free. People look at SEO as though it's free. It's not. You have to create content. Content's expensive. You have to find a way. I won't say buy links, because of course I would never buy links. How dare you? But you have to cultivate high quality links. SEO is expensive. PR campaigns. If you have a really good publicist, PR campaigns can be amazing. I've had some hit or miss relationships with them, but they're worth pursuing. Affiliate marketing. People look at affiliate marketing as though it does not cost money. That's a lie. It takes a ton of management in order to manage affiliates. And you have to bring in, you have to have available resources and provide them with pitch decks, those types of things. So I think affiliate marketing takes time and money. If you've got time but no money, then the organic thought leadership approach is, being a guest on podcasts, doing a YouTube channel, but doing one passively, kind of the way that we're doing it. I'm shooting a video every single day with the expectation that in 4 years I'm going to be YouTube famous. But I don't need this to pay off. We're not throwing a bunch of money at advertising. We just hope that, good quality content is going to bring us some more visibility. I don't have a lot in the way of infrastructure. You can say I use a Google slide for my presentation because I don't want to set up all the green screeny stuff. And maybe I'll get there someday. But if you have time and you don't have money, then the organic thought leadership is a good way to go. Content marketing is a good way to go. Quora, I think, is a phenomenal resource. Reddit can be a great resource, although be careful with Reddit because those people have teeth. Facebook groups, contributing organically to things and being a part of a community at large. Great opportunity to drive really quality traffic. Email marketing, list building. This should be every business owner's go-to, by the way. If you're not actively list building, start now today. Throw a lead magnet up on your website. Take everybody that's ever reached out to you on LinkedIn and save their email address in an Excel file. You don't have to be fancy with it, but email marketing, it's 2020. And every idiot joins marketing. You always get these emails or see these ads like, email marketing's dead. Really? What's the very first thing every human being does when they wake up, and the last thing they do before they go to bed? They check their email. I do it, you do it, every business owner does it. I'm not saying email marketing won't die someday, but it hasn't died yet. It's still the highest performing marketing channel at the lowest cost. Build an email list. Even a small, modest list of a couple hundred people can really pay dividends. And it's not hard to do. Take something of exceptional value, put it up on your site, allow people to download it in exchange for their email address. Bam, you're doing list building. Organic social, I'm not good at this at all, to be honest with you. So go research somebody who really crushes organic social. But if you want to play inside of groups and forums, that's where I would go because the people are already, accessible to you. As far as like building a following and going viral, I know nothing about it. I couldn't do it. If I could, I'd be a wealthier human. Strategic partnerships, huge. So I mentioned a couple of them earlier, but if you can work yourself into a strategic partnership with somebody that already has the traffic that you're looking for, there can be no better shot in the arm. Directories, Google My Business, massive, especially for localized businesses. Thumbtack, I used to use Thumbtack. I got one of our biggest clients off of Thumbtack. They're still with us. Building a channel like the one that you're watching. Let's go over, if you have no time but you've got money, paid ads. This is where I live, by the way. I own Solutions 8. We're one of the world's greatest Google Ads agencies on the planet. I can prove that with data, by the way. If you ever want to hop on a call with us, I will walk you through our campaigns with a screen share and let you see what we're capable of. It's insane. There's 500 people on the planet that know what we know about Google, and half of them work at Google. Forgive the hard sales pitch, but if you want a free action plan that would walk you through every single thing that we would do for you and your business, reach out to me because I want to do that for you. Even if you don't hire me, please hire somebody that's not one of those big box agencies that has no idea what they're doing. But this is where you go if you don't have time and you have money, because we can accelerate the learning process by many multiples. I actually recommend starting with Google Ads before you start with anything else outside of the sort of initial finger to the pulse touches that I mentioned earlier. Influencers, you'd be shocked at how cheap influencers are. We worked with a company that did they're a drink, very popular drink. You've seen their commercials for years. And they ended up paying a bunch of young women with very large followings on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And they paid them to pose in precarious positions with the can of their drink, their energy drink. And I was shocked at how cheap it was. You'd get an influencer who had, 25 million, and I'm not using real numbers, by the way, because I don't remember what it was, but a lot, like millions, followers in the millions, and it'd be $500 for her to take this can and shoot a funny picture of herself. And they got a ton of traction out of it, ton of views, ton of visibility. They weren't going for conversion. That wasn't our key performance indicator, for obvious reasons. They more of a retail environment, but their KPI was reach, and they got it in spades. So go check out the influencers, especially if you're running in a niche market. The influencers in a niche market are going to be even cheaper than normal influencers who are already pretty cheap. Paid partnerships, already talked about a little bit. Sponsored content can work really well. You can go network specific, like if you're an SEO agency, you can go advertise on Search Engine Journal. Or if you're a manufacturing company, you can go, pay specifically to sponsor content on, whoever you're manufacturing content for. We had a client that did they did like rugged LCD displays. So like when Lockheed Martin builds a new Apache helicopter, they can't put an iPad in there. They need to put a special screen. So while those folks did really well in Google Ads, we also wanted to get them specifically in front of like government buyers and institutional buyers. And so there were some sponsored content opportunities that ended up working out really well for us. And that's the time, money distribution. Sorry, I had to pause to drink water and then I spilled. Don't judge me. If you have lots of time and no money, some other opportunities for you: Chamber of Commerce, trade associations, private forums, Craigslist. God forgive me for saying I would never do it now where we are, but if I were just getting started out, that's when I first started. Actually, I would troll Craigslist for work. We started as a web design agency, believe it or not, 14 years ago or whatever. Software, in addition to that, and I got a ton of work off Craigslist. So don't negate this and don't think that this isn't traffic, because it is. We get spoiled thinking like, Google Ads and Facebook are the traffic channels. You can get traffic from anywhere. Cold calling is traffic. Getting people to your site and seeing your brand, that's traffic. That's the way it works. So this is on the table for you if you're not cash flush at the moment. The way to look at traffic is to honor the fact that you're serving one person at a time. We end up looking at these numbers and, I have 100 clients, monthly recurring active clients. And I don't know how many hundreds of millions of views that amounts to, but it's really easy to get overwhelmed by just the breadth and the expanse of that. And you start to kind of not realize that that's people, like that's a real life human. So like I have right now 355 YouTube subscribers and I'm trying to get to 1,000. And 355 seems like such a small number to me, and it's kind of embarrassing and humiliating because I'm trying to be YouTube famous and here I am and I've got nothing to show for it. And yet if I really think about it, that's 355 individual human beings, like with lives and jobs and stories and hopes and aspirations. And I have convinced 355 people at one time or another to let me talk to them on a recurring basis. That's huge. So think about every single time you get a view, a subscriber, a click through, an email, a purchase, whatever. Try not to look at these numbers in aggregate. This is true. I told you to build email addresses, like do list building. If you look at your list and you're depressed by it, if you only got 30 people on your list, who cares? That's 30 people interested in hearing from you. And if you get 31, celebrate that. That's huge. So market to one person at a time. Pixel audiences. If you're building a pixel audience on Facebook or Google, I realize there are minimum thresholds, but as you achieve a larger audience, celebrate those wins and realize that that's a really strong predictive indicator of success. And that's the way to look at traffic. You're buying the attention of one person at a time. And if you start looking at traffic that way, it lets you get more strategic too, which is really fun. It's a good place to be. Some of the goals around your funnels. Your traffic is going to change based off of where your avatar is in your customer value journey. If you're not familiar with the customer value journey, I recommend researching it a little bit. Digital Marketer does a great job at explaining that, so I won't try. But it's just the natural sequence of events that people take before they buy anything. And the funnel stages are broken down. There's more stages to the value journey, but the funnel stages are broken down into 3: awareness, evaluation, conversion. And realize that you have a different goal for traffic that's at the awareness stage than for traffic that's at the conversion stage. So let's say you have a product that nobody's ever heard of and you need to introduce that product. Your goal isn't to get people to buy. It's to build the audience and segment them and see who watched the video and who didn't and who subscribed and who didn't. So break your traffic up, your channels up, your goals up according to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Your messaging is going to change. And then it's a natural sequence. So they move, once you've built awareness, then you move them into evaluation. You can do that with ads. You can do that with your traffic. And then once they're in the midst of evaluation, you move them into conversion. All these advertising networks make it so easy now to capture user data, figure out who did what, and then build a rules engine around that. If they if they view this page, then send them this ad. And you can do it omni-channel, which is really cool too. So it just takes some time. If you have the time, do it. If you don't, hire me, because I want to do it for you. Is it needy? It was needy. where traffic sources may fit. Now realize that every traffic source is going to be different based off of your specific needs. So I'm giving you some ideas, but if you're in the awareness phase, and awareness is a push, by the way, you're generally pushing your message in front of people. People aren't like Googling, I wonder what I'm not aware of today. So paid, Facebook, YouTube. My favorite is YouTube by far. Facebook ads used to be so much cheaper. They've gotten a lot more expensive, and YouTube, I think, has higher engagement. It's better segmentation, better data. Paid content placement, collaborating with other, again, potential strategic partners. Free is blogs, yours and others. Incidentally, you can do guest blogging just with some outreach. Social media profiles, a YouTube channel, just like this one. If you want to move them into evaluation, now we're talking Google Ads. So now this is search and display, some remarketing, Facebook and YouTube still, because there's a story being told and you continue the story. Hopefully from the awareness stage, you've had the opportunity potentially maybe to get them as a subscriber. And you can, do some really interesting things there. And then when you're ready to convert them, now it's remarketing, Google Shopping if you're e-commerce branded, and then the free versions are, kind of self-explanatory at that point. This is high commercial intent approach. So email marketing, long tail keywords, direct purchase networks, that type of thing. Some quick rules for you in the awareness evaluation conversion construct. The budget formula is 631. So, if you've got $10, 6 goes to awareness building, 3 goes to evaluation, 1 goes to conversion. This is such a broad rule, and there's so many exceptions to it that I almost hesitate even putting it in the slides because it's just so hyper dependent to your business. I spend all my money at the bottom of the funnel. I spend all my money at conversion. We spend between all of our channels. I mean, it's 5 figures. It's a reasonable 5-figure sum. And almost all of that goes to conversion. But that's because I've isolated my high commercial intent key phrases. I know exactly what my narrative is supposed to be. I rank really well organically and don't need to invest in that any longer. So break this up according to what you think needs to be done. You have to install Google Analytics now. Don't start driving traffic and then install analytics and start looking at what it is that you're doing. Install Google Analytics and build out your goals in analytics so you actually know what you're looking at and how to evaluate it. And then use something like Hotjar, True Conversion, Lucky Orange. I actually use Lucky Orange. I prefer it, but Hotjar is free, so use Hotjar. And going back to the paradigm where we're earning one user at a time, Hotjar allows you to record somebody's session on your screen so you can see what they do, where they go, what they click on, what they think is clickable, it's not clickable, and make those little micro improvements. Because if you're paying to drive traffic, or even if you're not paying, you're spending time at a minimum. You're spending time and money, or time or money, or both. Invest the time necessary to improve the user engagement long term. It's going to help with everything. It helps with paid, it helps with organic, helps with conversions. So just make sure you're doing that. And that's it. That was my video on how to choose a traffic channel. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, confessions, or ideas, drop them into the comments. I read every comment personally. I respond to every comment personally. If you want to subscribe, I want to hit 1,000 subscribers so I can go live, because then I can embarrass myself. So if you wouldn't mind, if you would enjoy hearing from me on a regular basis, subscribe, hit that little bell, because that will get you notifications whenever I actually post a video, which is every day. And what's the other thing? Oh, share this. Share this with people who will benefit, please. Don't make fun of my hair. I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I really mean that. I don't discount the fact that you're one of the 1 people that I referred to. And you've got stuff to do, and I don't know how long this video was. I bet you it was 20 minutes, maybe longer. And your attention is important to me, and I hope I'm bringing you value. I hope that you get something out of this that's greater than what I asked of you. So I asked for 20, 30 minutes of your time, and hopefully you got more of that in life back. Until next time, this is Cosmo Solutions 8. Don't forget we offer a free action plan. Thanks for watching.